I can be brown, I can be blue, I can be Akko Lavender, I can be purple, I can be tactile, I can be clacky like you like. Okay, I will go no further with the TikTok singing memes. You're welcome. But I will go further reviewing the budget tactile switch, the Lavender Purples from Akko, starting right now with a stock sound test right out of the box. Put 60 seconds on the clock for some switch info, and then we'll get into how they sound lubed, as well as some switch comparisons. Ooh, that's kind of satisfying. The Lavender Purples are a tactile switch, meaning they have a slight bump on the keystroke. It's a 3-pin standard MECH style switch. It has a solid lavender stem and bottom housing, but a transparent, translucent, transparent, doesn't matter, top housing right here. Now, for the important part, there's 3 things. Number 1, the classic extended spring. The spring's not quite as compressed. By the way, I reviewed the vintage whites on this channel. I'll leave a link to the video. You can go check that out. Very similar switch. It's a long spring, but a very light actuation force. This is an 18mm spring. The vintage whites are like 22, but the actuation force is like light at like 36G. Last thing. The tactile bump on these switches is right at the top of the keystroke. If you look at those funky graphs that you see from like all these switches, you'll see the actual tactile bump is right at the top, right when you first start pressing down the switch, which leads these, spoiler alert, to a bit of a stiff feel. Not necessarily in a bad way, but you could definitely feel the resistance despite the fact that it's only 36 Gs of operating force. Now, I shall give you more thoughts on how they sound and feel, what I think about them after a little bit of a sound test comparison with the glorious Pandas, some uber cheap Gateron Browns, and I also lube some of these guys. So we'll see what that sounds like as well. So you may have noticed some things in there. Let's jump into Pete's thoughts. So my 1-sentence overall takeaway, feedback on these would be they're fantastic for the price, but they probably need to be lubed. I think they sound and feel fine right out of the box, but it's just maybe a little bit louder, a tiny bit scratchy, not terrible, but lubing them definitely brought out a better sound, in my opinion. It took away some of the harshness, and I was very careful when I was lubing, by the way. I didn't want to lose the tactile bump. I avoided the leaves and the stem legs. It just brought down the sound, in my opinion, to sound a little bit better. Now, speaking of sound, we'll talk about that first. Tappy, and then a little crunchy. tappy like the vintage whites that I reviewed. It shouldn't surprise you. Like, it's almost the exact same spring, very light operating force here. It's very tappy. It's very higher pitched. It's a little bit louder than like the Glorious Pandas. Maybe you noticed that. Again, you lube it, it'll take away some of the loudness, the sharpness from it. But it's not bad. It's tappy. You definitely notice that. So satisfying. Feel, same thing. They feel tappy, but they also feel stiff. Resistance is strong. The resistance is strong with these lavender switches. Sorry, not sorry. Yeah, the extended spring and the fact that the bump is at the very top of the keystroke, like right before you even get any momentum, pressing it down, it leads these to be stiff. But that's what you want out of a tactile switch, right? That's what I want. I don't want it to be super smooth. That's what a linear switch is for. I like to feel a little bump. I like to feel a little resistance. And I think these do that well. More so than a lot of other tactile switches I've tried. And again, they're budget, right? They're super cheap. Like, they're literally like a third of the cost of like Holy Pandas or Bobas or Glorious Pandas or stuff like that. So I like them. I do think you need to lube them. Or not need to lube, but if you want them to sound their best, lubing definitely made a slight difference. By the way, no switch films on these guys. They're tight enough. Couldn't get any on there to begin with. Stock is fine. They really go to like a solid A- or A if you lube them up. I can be brown, I can be blue, I can be Akko Lavender, I can be purple, I can be tactile, I can be clacky like you like. I can be brown, I can be blue, I can be Akko Lavender, I can be purple, I can be tactile, I can be clacky like you like. I can be brown, I can be blue, I can be Akko Lavender, I can be purple, I can be tactile, I can be clacky like you like. I can be brown, I can be blue, I can be Akko Lavender, I can be purple, I can be tactile, I can be clacky like you like. I can be brown, I can be blue, I can be Akko Lavender, I can be purple, I can be tactile, I can be clacky like you like. I can be brown, I can be blue, I can be Akko Lavender, I can be purple, I can be tactile, I can be clacky like you like.